for joining me. Today we're going to break down how to use some props. We have some workshops coming up at the studio, DM Wellness and Yoga, and we're going to be looking at how to use various props in our practice to help support your practice, to challenge you in new ways, to help you find alignment in your postures, and to support yourself where you might need a little bit of extra support in your body to just make things more comfortable, more accessible, or to get to that feeling that you're looking for in a safe way. So today we're going to take a look at the props that we'll use in workshop 2, which is a blanket, blocks, and a bolster. For each of these props, we're going to go through a couple poses. One will be a little bit more active, where the prop is helping you to feel more sensation or to get deeper into a pose. And then we'll also do one that's more passive, where the props are there really for support, for comfort, to help you ease in a safe way. So let's get started. We're going to start with the blocks today. So I have here a set of thicker foam blocks. So blocks do come in a little bit more, a little bit thinner size, and also you can get blocks that are harder like cork. These are what we have at studios. These are what I will be using today. So I'm going to come down onto my back and just show you an option of where we can bring blocks into the practice to make a pose a little bit more challenging, to create a bigger sensation or a bigger movement in the body. So I'll just bring these over to my side for a moment so you can see what it looks like as I come into a bridge. So arms by my sides, feet grounded about hip width distance apart, heels close to the hips. So this is kind of our standard back bend. We see this in a lot of our practices. So pushing my feet into the floor, lifting up the hips and engaging the glutes. So here I'm working into a back bend. And you can see I can only come up so high lifting my hips that even if I was very flexible, very mobile, there would be kind of an end point here where I might be able to physically bend in my back more, but I'm limited by the size of my legs. So here, blocks are a good option to put underneath your feet to extend the length of your legs and create more height in a bridge. So I'm just gonna take a moment to get the blocks set up about that same hip width distance, finding a place where my heels feel sufficiently anchored. Arms back down by the sides, and then pushing up into that bridge. So you can see now I have more height. I can work my shoulder blades under my body a little bit more and really deepen that back bend sensation. So props are a great way to help find more space. This is just one example of an active posture where we can get a little bit further with the help of the blocks. So I'll bring my hips down now and rock up. So the next shape that I'm going to come into is a kneeling lunge. And for this, I'm actually going to bring in the blanket as well, because I have a knee that has a little bit less cartilage, and so when I'm down on one knee, it's uncomfortable for me. So a blanket is one way to add some cushion to just make things a little bit more comfortable. So I'm actually going to start standing with the blocks at the top of my space. So this would be as if I'm stepping back into my kneeling lunge. So just breathe into a little halfway lift, and then coming down, keeping the right foot forward, stepping the left foot back, and lower that left knee down. So from here, we are going to find the blocks and shift back into a seated half split. So without the blocks, you can see that it might be a stretch to reach all the way down to the floor. And as I tip my hips back and hinge forward, I'm looking for that hamstring stretch, but I don't want to be having to work too hard with the upper body, because I'm really just looking for that sensation behind the right leg. So here sometimes we're trying really hard to reach the floor, our arms are locked out, we're working, but the blocks will help us kind of ease in by bringing the floor up a little bit higher. So as I bring the blocks here kind of under my shoulders, I'm able then to bend the elbows and relax the upper body, because I'm not reaching and straining to try to find the floor came to me. So this is an example of how the blocks can help us to ease in to that stretch and not have to work so hard in the places that we're not supposed to be working in this pose. So I'm going to let the upper body relax for a few breaths here. And I'm going to walk it forward. Take a moment to tuck the left toes under, lift the left knee, step forward, reset with a halfway lift. And then we'll try it on the other side. Right leg comes back, right knee lowers. I'm using that blanket for extra support. and then shifting back to my seated half split. Again, utilizing the fact that I don't have to reach all the way for the floor. I can bring the floor up to me. You can do this at whatever height you need. So the blocks can go a little bit shorter. They can even go a little bit higher. So very much a good adaptive tool that we have in the studio to help make changes in our shapes. So I'm just gonna settle in here again, bending the elbows, relaxing my upper body so I can really feel this stretch behind the left leg. Just a couple breaths. Good, and then I'll take it forward, setting the blocks aside, tuck the right toes under, lift the right knee, and step forward. So that's one example of how we can use the blanket as a little extra support to make things more comfortable. So that goes for knees. Sometimes if we're on our hands, we might need a little extra cushion. You can also use it as a pillow, things like that when you're on your back. So just keep in mind that the blanket is here. If anything feels too hard of a surface, that's a great option. So now we're gonna go to something that's a little bit more active with our blanket. So I'm gonna give it a roll. So it's about the width of a mat. I've got a couple mats put together here, that's why it looks extra big. But from here, we're gonna use this blanket roll so that now it has a little bit of elevation to get a calf stretch. So this is just an option. The blanket's nice because it has still some give, but we've rolled it up, it's thick enough that we'll have the support that we need here as well. So I'm just gonna step nice and close to the blanket, so my toes are right behind that blanket roll, and bring the right foot, the ball of the foot, up to kind of the center of the blanket, and bring my heel down to the floor. So try to get my heel as close to the blanket as possible. So now I'm feeling this behind that lower right leg, that calf. And you can even kind of bend and lean into it. Just kind of see how much you need. And you could always make the blanket roll a little bit thicker if you are ready to feel deeper sensation, but sometimes here just kind of leaning in is enough. We've got a couple breaths here. And then we'll switch, bringing that right foot now behind. Follow the left foot on top, left heel to the floor. So we're getting that nice flexion at the ankle, the toes almost curling back toward me as I lean it in, looking for a sensation behind that lower left leg. And you can do this as well with a block. If the blanket feels like you're not really feeling anything, the block would be the next kind of level to deepen, but it's a lot to start with the block, especially if you have a tall block or a hard block. That sensation can be a little intense. So that's just one option of how the blanket can help us with more of an active stretch. So I'm gonna go ahead and set my blanket aside as we move on to the bolster. So there's not a ton that's active that we do with the bolster because it's just a nice pillow, as you can see. But one thing that we can do here is come to a back bend. So I'm gonna come down to my mat. So this is a place where you're supported by the bolster and we're kind of relaxing into the pose, but it's more of a yin posture, which means we're feeling that stretch happening in the body. Even though it's passive, it's a big sensation where we feel that opening, that expansion across the front of the body compared to more restful postures where we'll head next. So I'm gonna start here in a seat, just bring this bolster right up behind me, looking to find a place where my glutes are still resting on the floor as I lean back and let my head feel supported. And here, this bolster is a little big that I can't quite get my shoulders to the floor. So today I am going to also use the blanket. We want to make sure that we have adequate support. So this is just going to be on the other side of me to make sure that my shoulders have that support. So we have different size props. This is a big round one. A lot of times we are using a more rectangular shape, so it's a little bit flatter. So you just bring your arms open to the sides here and just kind of relax in. If you feel like you enjoy a nice deep back bend, you might be able to extend your legs out here. And we'll just take a few breaths. So this is a place where the bolster, the pillow is supportive, but we're feeling a big intensity of this back bend, of this opening. So I'm just gonna take another breath here. And then slowly work my way back up and out. All right, final posture with the bolster. I'm just gonna find a supported rest position with my legs slightly elevated. So I'm gonna here use the bolster to rest the calves, letting my feet be elevated, coming onto the back. So we use bolsters a lot in a restorative practice where they just help us get relaxed, get settled in. So this would be a place that you might find Shavasana, that resting relaxation on your back. With the legs elevated, just a little different sensation, a little different feeling of support. Just pause here, about 3 slow breaths. And then slowly start to unwind. I'll draw my knees to my chest, roll over, and gently press up. So that's just a very few of the things that we can do with blocks, a blanket, and a bolster. You come to the workshop, you'll find a whole lot more. We'll do a lot of active work with the blocks and a lot of different ways that you can be supported in restorative Indian postures with the blanket and the bolster. Thanks for watching the video, and let me know if you have any questions.